All right, guys. So today we're going to cover the performance gap. So this is super important, really critical part of the process when it comes to identifying that dream version of yourself and deciding how you're going to get there. So we're thinking about where you've been, where you are currently, what's in the way, what are your barriers, and what are we going to do about that to remove those barriers. And we're trying to essentially decide and help you identify where you need to be that dream version of yourself. So yeah, we're going to use me as an example. I'm going to talk you through a little bit about my situation and where I've come from, and that reflection, if you can apply that reflection to your own situation, I hope that's going to help you identify the steps that we need to take. What are the most important, most urgent things to address? And we can take it from there. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about where I was. Okay, so as a teenager and as a young man in my early 20s, if you speak to anyone who knows me, they will tell you how much I used to get injured. I played football all of my life growing up. Loved football, wanted to be a professional when I was younger. And what I found throughout my teenage years was that my body couldn't really do the sort of things that I wanted it to do. I couldn't, maybe I couldn't sprint as quickly as I wanted to without getting injured. I couldn't change direction the way I wanted to and express power the way I would like. And my body would break down really easily. So my managers, for say, you've got this image of me here playing for my Sunday team. My managers wouldn't be able to get 90 minutes out of me. They would have to take me off after 60 minutes because the hamstring's not feeling right. Or they'd have to sub me off after 70 minutes because he's picked up an adductor strain. So all of these injuries were setting me back on a regular basis. Going into my early 20s, I had some knee pain that I was dealing with. I had a big knee injury whilst playing football when I was about 19. So all of these things were affecting me. My performances, little did I know at the time, were also, these dips in performance were also coming from the fact that I was going out a lot, I was partying, I was playing on hangovers, I was playing on 2 or 3 hours sleep. Which is just ridiculous. Like, knowing what I know now, I don't know how I thought that I wouldn't pick up an injury, being in the condition that I was in. So I was extremely sleep deprived a lot of the time. Finished university, went into personal training, and I was still going out quite a lot. So I was having this combination of late nights because I was out with friends and early mornings because I was working a job that involved, maybe opening a gym at 6 a.m., running a fitness class at 6:30 a.m. And these were quite long days as well. So sometimes, particularly with personal training, you might have clients that run well into the evening as well. So this is an awful combination of things, and it's chaos, carnage for your body. So obviously that would damage my mindset. It would damage my relationships with people because you're having conversations when you're tired and stressed and things aren't going well for you. That was impacting relationships. I also found that because I was, striving to play football, I was doing all of this training and being in suboptimal condition during these training sessions, that was making me unwell. So often I was getting sick. I was off work ill, or I've picked up the flu or a cold. And these are really common things that happen when you try to approach life, burning the candle at both ends and just going completely relentless with your approach. So, and finally, I did also get quite a few gym-related injuries. So, I'm doing all of these gym sessions, and as a quick example, I might find myself doing a bench press, and because I'm trying to lift more than my body's sort of prepared for on that day, that might lead to a shoulder strain, or all kinds of small little injuries that you can pick up while you're in the gym. So that was my situation. That's where I was in my early 20s. Um, and yeah, it was definitely getting me down, and it was not the kind of place that I wanted to be. So how did I try to bridge that gap? What did I do to try and improve in my life and move on from that? So, as you can see, I was, I did well in sport. I was um, capable as a footballer. I played for my university team. You can see there I won awards for being a good player in my team. I went and played abroad in America, and I had a degree of potential. Um, but yeah, I obviously didn't meet that potential. So what I started doing was thinking about, why do I keep getting all these injuries? Why does this keep happening to me? It's always my hamstrings. It's always my adductors. What's going on with my knee? And it took me until my late teens, early 20s to realize that I had been really neglecting my lower body strength. My legs were weak. I rarely did lower body strength training, so deadlifting, squatting, hinging. These were just afterthoughts to me, because I thought, well, I'm doing all of this running, I'm doing all of this cycling and all of this lower body activity. But the reality is, once you learn, I went to university, learn the sports science, and learn the processes of physiological adaptations and how your body actually grows and gets stronger. And you realize that doing all of this endurance activity is not the same as strength training. They're not the same thing. So I realized that I'd been neglecting that, and that was something I had to work on. So I went about a process of deadlifting again, squatting again, and making that more of a priority in my life. I took a lot more of a greater appreciation for things like foam rolling and stretching. I actually did my first dissertation at university on foam rolling and stretching and the effects of sports massage on footballers. So that was my first ever big study at university. And I was taking players from my football team, and I was giving them, foam rolling, stretching, sports massage, or all three, and comparing the results of them. So that was the first time that I got really interested in those things. And, I also realized I had to tone it down a bit with alcohol, and start getting to bed a bit earlier if I was gonna start performing a little bit better on the pitch and also in my life. And I had this new job at the Hogarth that I was really keen to do well at, so I wanted to make sure that I was just getting a little bit more sleep in my life. I think at this point I was winning back maybe 1 to 2 hours per night. And then also in this phase of life, in my sort of mid 20s now, I'm starting to think more about, how I can start to manage my stress a bit better, how I can, if we're being blunt, I needed to grow up. I needed to mature a little bit. So I had to do things about controlling how I was using my social media, um, you know, being addicted to the news, gluing yourself to the news all of the time, allowing it to get you down, allowing it to stress you out and frustrate you. It's no way to live your life. So I had to address these things, and I also had to look at diet. So I was focusing on trying to get more protein in, and I was using supplements and trying to consume a bit less junk. And then also looking at a bit more of an appreciation for recovery days, because the reality is when I was on, I was just on all the time, and I rarely took days off. I was playing football 2 or 3 times a week, strength training 3 or 4 times a week. I was out running, I was doing everything, and I was never resting. So that had to change, and I started quite loosely implementing rest days. But it's still safe to say that is like an amber. That's not green. We can do much better, right? Um, So let me tell you about how I've improved since then. I'm now in my mid 30s. I've learned a lot of lessons from these years, from my mid 20s, and I'm really glad to say I'm not in that place anymore. I haven't got things perfect at the moment, but they're a downside better than they were back then. So let me tell you about where I am now. So I realized all of the things that were holding me back physically, the hamstring strains, the adductor pain, and I've gone about aggressively trying to improve those weak point areas. So I spend a lot of time doing these supplementary exercises on top of like a lower body strength exercise. So let's say I've done some deadlifts in the gym, or I've done some heavy squats. I'm also focusing on areas, the weak point areas. So maybe I'm working on the adductors, or I'm doing some Nordics or some leg curls, some things to try and strengthen my hamstrings. And yeah, just working at those areas on a regular basis has had a massive effect on me, a massive improvement for me. I feel like I've gained quite a bit of muscle in my lower body recently, so I'm going to do a scan at the end of the year and see what the change in muscle mass is there in my legs. But yeah, making those changes has had a huge effect for me, and I plan to continue that for as long as I can. Better mobility practice, so just drip feeding that into your life on a regular basis, just 5 to 10 minutes at a time. People make the common mistake of being at one of two extremes. So either never doing any mobility training, and it's like a warm up is 5 minutes on the bike or 10 minutes on the treadmill, and it's not enough. That's not the way to approach your training. And then the other end of the spectrum is people who just people who only ever spend all of their time doing mobility, doing foam rolling, Pilates, yoga, stretching, all of this stuff, and then they never actually lift. So you've got some people who completely neglect it, and you've got some people who it's all they ever do. But neither of these two are finding that happy medium where they spend 5 to 10 minutes every day or every other day just working on mobility and weak point areas and just quality movement. So that's a massive thing to aspire towards. Another step I took was to massively reduce alcohol intake. I tried to cut my consumption down by about 50%. I've managed to do that just by having, like, you can see in the image there, I've got my Corona Zero, which I really love. Such a good drink. Just switching out, alcohol for a zero or a low has had a massive impact. Never drink in the week anymore. And yeah, it's had a massive effect on my life. That was something that I had to confront. I had to be honest with my current situation. I had to have conversations with my wife. She wanted to cut down as well, so we decided to do it together. And I think doing it together has actually allowed us to have the success that we've had so far. Having that buddy to do it with. Yeah, not an easy process cutting down alcohol, but really, really glad I've done that. And then I also went from being employed to being self-employed, and this control of my career allowed me to win my mornings back, which is something that I could only have dreamed of when I was doing 4 or 5, 6 and 7 a.m. starts in my gym job, which I worked for 10 years. I always said to myself, when I work for myself, I won't be doing that. I won't be doing 6 a.m. clients and 7 a.m. clients. And because of that, because I've taken that decision and taken control of my career, that's now won me back 3 or 4 hours of sleep that I wasn't getting 5 to 10 years ago. Also, device detoxing. So I'm really anti-news. I like to know. I appreciate the importance of knowing what's going on in the world, and I like to be updated on those things, and I take moments in my life to update myself and just see what's going on in the world when I can. But I don't consume daily news. the reason for this is there's a lot of things that we have no control over out there. And we have to ask really difficult questions about what we're actually getting from this news. The objective of a news company is to get you to watch. The objective of a news social media outlet is to get you to click, get you to share. And in order for them to do that, they have to show us things and present news to us that they know will trigger an emotional reaction, be that anger, be that joy. More often than not, it's depressing news rather than joyful news. So I realized that wasn't serving me. Rightly or wrongly, it wasn't serving me. And I appreciate as well, not everyone has that luxury. One of my clients is a journalist. He can't afford to not know what's going on. So, that's in his best interest to be constantly monitoring what's going on in the world. But for me, it wasn't serving me. It was only depressing me and frustrating me. So that was a step that I took. I implemented a device detox, which was to get off of my phone at 9:30 p.m. every night. Put my phone on charge in the living room, and that's where it stays. It stays there until the next morning, about 8 o'clock, 8:30. And I know that I'm then not scrolling in the evening, no blue light, and it's all good. Improving the diet, as you can see below, lovely example of an awesome meal we had out on the balcony the other night. Delicious stuff, tuna steaks, potatoes, salad, a really good example of how we're trying to eat. And just really improving that balance for work and recovery just by training more, training a bit less and resting more and getting that balance right between training and recovery has been a transformational step for me. I think I've come a long way from where I was just an on button with no off switch. And now there's a real dimmer switch. So I can turn that volume up. I can go hard with my training, and then I turn that volume down, and I can really have a nice blend of intensity with my training and my life. And honestly, I can say it's made me a lot happier. It's doubled the quality of my results with my training. And I'd like to hear what you are now going to do for yourself to make that assessment of your current situation, make your assessments of how you've progressed, make your assessments of what needs to change in order to get where you want to be, so that we can really close that performance gap, and we can get you towards that dream version of yourself. Love to hear your thoughts on this one, and let's catch up and discuss what your steps are now.